Well, we're back, and I'm obviously not Kent Adams. I'm Lani Madsen. I missed the first half of the show, and so Kent's taking a break while I sit down and we visit with Becki Wheeler and Ryan McNeice from McNeice Wheeler. I'm assuming it's your firm, right?
It is. Thank you for having us.
Okay. Well, I think the subject today was going to be estate planning, something that everybody has to do or should do. And I will tell you really briefly, my experience with a non-estate planning was my aunt died suddenly, and my sister and I had to take care of things. If you hate your family, don't do any estate planning.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's probably a great lead-in, Beck, if you want to talk about the need for that.
Absolutely. Our office a lot does just basic estate planning, which includes the will to save your family a lot of headache down the road.
Yes.
But most importantly, powers of attorney. And we do those for both financial and healthcare matters, which is very important, clearly, while you're still living, but potentially incapacitated and can't make your own decisions. And a lot of times what happens is people have their parents or an older family member that comes down with dementia or some other illness, and then it's too late for them to do the power of attorney document because they are not capable of signing a legal document at that time. So that can cause as many heartaches for the family members as a lack of a will.
It really can. Yeah, that does create a hardship, and Becky's right. If those documents are prepared earlier when the elderly family members, do have capacity to contract, it certainly saves a lot of time, a lot of stress, a lot of heartache, and gives family members the opportunity to make those decisions for their loved ones.
Well, what are some of the questions that you would want to have, you would want to make sure a family discussed? They want to come in and they want to talk about this. What's the top questions that you need to ask?
Oh, goodness. There are so many, I think, critical pieces. This day and age, there are so many scenarios with traditional families, blended families, kids, grandkids, stepchildren. So there's some really critical provisions to the estate planning, specifically the wills, that outline provisions for either second marriages and kids from first marriages in terms of the trajectory of where those assets go. So I think a lot of our consultation probably surrounds family makeup, and how the flow of those assets truly goes in a will.
I imagine you find yourself doing some family counseling at the same time.
Sometimes, yes.
As people make those tough decisions.
Absolutely.
What do you recommend for at different stages in life? Say for a very young family, a couple just starting out, maybe they don't have kids, but they're thinking of starting a family. What would you recommend them to focus on?
I would still say that the will itself, a simple will, is important at any age during your lifetime. Mainly because as you're thinking about having kids, you're outlining and giving your spouse the opportunity through as Becky mentioned, through the powers of attorney, even as a young couple, through the powers of attorney for financial matters and healthcare matters, you're giving that spouse specific rights, whether it be through the medical care system, visitation issues at a hospital, in terms of the financial realm. You're giving that spouse the opportunity to make banking decisions in your stead. So I think those are very important and continue to be important at any age.
And then obviously young families with kids, very important to get in the estate planning documents, guardian, nominees, and then trustees also, since you can't gift any money to minors in Washington. So the trustee piece is important, and
Very
then you
good
get
point.
to put some restrictions on how that money is used and distributed. So lots of things to think about.
Are the trustees or guardians brought into the process typically or atypically?
They don't have to be. It's practical.
Indirectly a bit, in that we advise people to go and have a conversation with whoever they're hoping to nominate, that they be willing and able to do that position.
Right.
We also nominate an alternate in case that person, something happens along the road. Of course, we try to draft our documents to be as long lasting as they can, so things can happen along the road to make one of those people that you named unable to perform those duties. So an alternate helps, or two.
Well, you just mentioned long-lasting. Why don't you tell the audience what some of the triggers might be that you would want to go back and rearrange that.
rework.
Because I know my mom once said, I think you're dead and I need a new will because I don't think your aunt and uncle want you anymore.
Oh, that's
Thanks, Mom.
certainly a direct comment. Certainly, the birth of a child, adding specific names. When you get into guardianship scenarios of minors, that sometimes can be a bit of a contentious discussion among spouses, whether it's this particular
My family, your family.
my family, your
Nobody's
family, religious beliefs, et cetera, et cetera. So when those situations
Right.
potentially change throughout the lifetime of that family unit,
Divorce is a big
Divorce.
one, where it helps to come back in and rework some of that stuff.
So any of those kind of fairly obvious, actually, kind of big life changes
Right.
you
A
really
death,
need to think
yeah.
about an
Right.
estate plan update.
yes.
Absolutely.
And as a critical piece of the estate plan that we provide, you have your will, you have your powers of attorney for healthcare and financial matters, but a healthcare directive also is a piece of that provides end-of-life decisions. That's an important document as well.
Okay, and where do you carry that around with you? I mean, what do you do with these documents?
Actually, usually we recommend that they're kept in a safe place, such as a safety deposit box or a safe. But that actually does answer one of your questions in terms of involving other members of your family. Oftentimes, you'd probably provide those documents to other members of your family
Backup copy
that would
to
know
your
where to
sister
find
or
those
something,
in case of.
Yeah, some people record those documents also. You can file them in the clerk's office so that the original is there. A lot of times what happens, people have the copies, but if you need to probate an estate, you have to have the original will to do that.
And we do handle quite a bit of probate if someone passes away, so that's kind of the next piece of the equation.
Okay, well, I did actually successfully probate my aunt's will through King County courts
That's impressive.
by myself.
Kudos to you.
That is
Lots
impressive.
of research, and it took most of a
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, it can be very time consuming.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is. I think that's another piece that a will name someone to be the administrator.
Mhm.
Correct.
And what are some options that people have for naming an administrator?
Well, and there are several names, administrator, personal representative, or executor. In terms of options, I think the traditional is nominating a spouse and vice versa, sometimes adult children or a close family member. Although you can nominate institutions as well, whether it be a banking institution or trust department.
The only legal qualification is that person must be over 18 and competent to
Yeah,
sign legal
have the
documents.
capacity to
What do you
contract.
see as the most common option? Do many people, choose
Spouse.
the trust department? Usually a spouse.
Usually.
Yeah,
spouse.
an individual is common. A lot of times if you name an institution, there's a fee involved with that. So a lot of
Right.
people go with family members.
Do you name a backup?
Yes, usually there's a first and second alternate. Again, that speaks to what Becky mentioned in terms of the flexibility and longevity of the document.
Sure.
It is worth noting too, if there's a small provision or section in the will that you're hoping to change, you can do what's called a codicil to a will, which is basically an amendment so that you don't have to redraft the entire document. You can just
Okay.
do a little piece of it.
Good point.
So updating doesn't have to be a major production.
Exactly.
No,
if
it
it's-
does not.
If it's not a major
Major
life
change. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. Well, what's your top piece of advice that you give people who are thinking about their will? What's their biggest decision?
Probably to do it as timely
do
as you
it.
well to do it
And
as timely
quickly.
as you
Yeah.
can. It ironically seems to be that we get a lot of phone calls before somebody's flying off for a particular vacation, and so they call when, of course, that's top of mind. But yeah, I think we just encourage folks that it is an important document, and it's harder to accomplish some of these items, such as the powers of attorney and the decisions that come from that at a later time. It's easier to do it now, makes things fairly straightforward.
So do you each have a will that's up to date?
We
Yes.
do.
Yes.
Because I
We
have
do.
an uncle who's an attorney who says he doesn't
Who
need
doesn't?
one.
Yeah.
Classic, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
And it's very important too, if you're going to go through the trouble of doing them, like Ryan said, know where they are
Yes.
or let someone know where they are, because then it's, not all for naught if you don't.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I think you've given a lot of good information for the audience today, and I really appreciate
Thank you.
coming.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for
having
having
us.
All right.
If you need a sign, banner, or business cards for your business, who do you call? Hi, this is Kent Adams.
And Tom MacArthur from Business Talks. Kent and I call Instant Sign Factory for our signs, banners, business cards, and more.
Dave at Instant Sign Factory is our go-to guy.